Weird science
is the revolution.
Blade #7, and even on the cover, it's like, it feels like this weird play of, okay, Blade, we thought the book was going to be canceled, and you ended up having Brian Hill say, no, it's not, but it looks like it's on that help everybody, we need to get people reading it, so why not put Hulk on the cover and mix him into the story, which fits, but then makes it feel like it's more of a side story of Hulk instead of a team up with Blade and Hulk. It just felt weird, right? It didn't feel like the Blade book that we were reading.
The subtitle, Jim, you were telling me like it's not just Blade, it's Blade the Hulk Slayer.
The Hulk
it's like, wow, it sounds like a fantasy movie from the 1980s.
Yeah. And then when you go into it, it's that clickbait type deal.
Yeah,
it's not that. It really isn't that, because even as Blade tells us, Hulk, Bruce called Blade. He's the one who wanted him to be in this town.
He reminds him of that, doesn't he, as well? It's like, you call me, don't you?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's no Hulk Slayer. And it's weird, but it is Blade #7, written by Brian Hill, art by Valentina Pinti, KJ Diaz on colors, and VC's Corey Petit on letters. I kind of need Elena Casagrande back on this book, and I don't think that Elena Casagrande is going to be back on the book. It seems like she is kind of come and gone. I like her art a lot. This has a play where it's not Nick Klein from The Incredible Hulk, but it's trying to play that with
It's trying to mimic him a bit, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not Nick Klein, but it's not bad. But even then, when you get into it, and again, this is a Blade book, right? We have Blade and the whole play with the Adana, this evil entity that's going to consume all the world, and it's been Blade's fault from the get-go. He ends up killing the one thing that ends up being able to stop it, then gives the sword. All of this is like Blade just fumbling, bumbling, stumbling to get to this. But the thing I took from this is when you first start out, you start out with the Hulk. And it really feels like just a Hulk book then through and through. And it does feel like it has that synergy with the Philip Kennedy Johnson Incredible Hulk play that's going on, which I do
100%, Jim, it does. You were saying that way before we recorded. It really does, not just the art style, but the colours as well. It's like, what is it, that kind of black light, that purple lighting thing going on?
And so when you do this, if I took the cover and all that away, those sort of trappings in the beginning and whatever, and I ended up giving it to you and I said, here's this book. What book is it? I think most people would think this is an Incredible Hulk issue that Blade ended up joining in, not vice versa. And that's kind of a weird play. And it's just
Blade's the guest star, in the Hulk book.
And so Blade, he got the powers of the Draculas, right? Oh my goodness, I'm going to be Dracula and I'm going to go off, and we're like, oh, what's the repercustions of that? What's that going to mean? And you get into this, and you see a little of the new powers, but you don't get the gravitas of it. You don't get like where Blade is trying to maybe, because he does talk about not succumbing to the deal, but this is bigger because it's Dracula stuff. And I really was shocked that you don't even reference that at all. Like, Blade doesn't think, I can't do this because if I do this, Dracula will take me over. Oh my God, we don't really know the scope of the rules or what's at play, and it's kind of weird, right?
It's not clear at all.
Blade shows up, and Hulk was bashing these crazy monsters in the woods, and then Blade comes slice and dice. I wish it was a little more detailed art there, but you end up with these like weird, gremlin type monster things. They run back into the woods. Now they'll come to play later, but it doesn't connect great. And then you end up where Blade says, hey, you called me, remember that, you better calm down. And then he goes boom, 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 and turns back into Bruce Banner. It's nice that Blade gives him his coat. And then we sit in a diner. Here's this. We sit in a diner.
Pabst Diner, Jim.
Page. Yeah, Pabst. And then after the diner, we then go to a church and we talk there. Then there's not the pacing is off from what we had in the Blade book. It fits the Hulk book, but it doesn't really fit the Blade book. Yeah,
you're right.
Right?
A lot of sat down, a lot of talks.
Yeah, and it suddenly now seems like we're going to, and I hope not, because, okay, I don't mind it as much in Incredible Hulk, because the setup of, hey, we're going to wander like a Bruce Banner, like a Hulk, we're going to wander town to town and try to solve the evil that may be. That's what the Ghost Rider book by Ben Percy ended up being a lot of. And Blade, I need more of the full out, hey, you son of a bees, I'm going to shoot and root and toot and slice you. That we liked this series at the beginning because we said you could hear the voice of Wesley Snipes, right? That's always fun. But it was an action movie on the page. And Elena Casagrande's art, I think, played that out even more. So when you're doing this, you're like, okay, we're slowing down a pace in a book that really needs to pick up the pace and really get to the Adana. It used to be a lot more exciting,
didn't it?
Yeah, it was
exciting. It was cool. It was sexy. You know, yeah, you could hear the voice. It was really, really fun.
And you had, you know, the sidekicks, and they get pushed aside, which we knew they would the way the last issue was. But
right.
And then this, you get what? I know a lot of people like it, but I get it too much. And this stage is like body horror stuff. Not a huge body horror guy, but we get it in The Incredible Hulk, especially when he's transforming back and forth. It's horrific. But we also get it in, say, a Poison Ivy over at DC that I end up reading and reviewing. We get it in a lot of things that just doesn't play well for me with Blade. Blade, to me, is more action hero. Let's go and really have some cool set pieces, some really cool action. But what happens is that they're just talking, even then, they're in this diner, and I thought, what's going on? Like, Blade really makes himself at home, right? I mean, nobody's around. Everybody, Banner says, they're all holed up in this church. So he's like, hey, and then says, hey, I hope you like the way I make coffee. I make it strong. That's a weird thing to say when you made coffee in somebody else's diner. It's weird. And they're just talking. Hey, what do you think's happening? I don't know. Everybody's holed up in this church. Oh, we're going to have to go see this. There's monsters here, blah, blah, blah. Let's go. Well, obviously, there's monsters here. You just ended up slicing a bunch of these gremlin-type craziness. Why didn't you chase them? You know what I mean? Like, they were there. But they go to this church, and everybody's kind of sitting in the church.
I love it. Randomly, Bruce in the diner, he just suddenly asks, by the way, how's Yumi-san? It's like, remember Yumi-san from the Blade first bite? It's like,
really? And then they're telling you, like, yeah, go read that from back in the day.
Marvel Unlimited, like, no.
Yeah, no, I don't think I will. They go to the church, everybody's holed. Again, there's the holy place, these evil entities, they can't get them, so they're holed up. But the big kicker here, our son, he went into the woods, and it says he woke up in the middle of the night, went into the woods. He came back, but it wasn't him. Damn right it wasn't him, because the picture that they show, and maybe this is the play, but it looks like a 10-year-old kid sitting there pretending he's Neil Peart, playing bottles and cans, clap your hands. I mean, it looks like this kid's like out in the shed. He's doing the bottles and the buckets.
He's young and cute and happy. He looks innocent, doesn't he, Jim? Yeah.
Next thing you know, I mean, this doesn't look like a Tommy Lee. This looks like a guy who's like, he's nice. He's like a Ringo. He's there doing his deal, right? And we really miss him. But when he came back, something got into my boy. I'm like, something got into him. The kid came back 10 years older and just looks insane. I mean, really, besides the idea that he has some crazy monster in him, I don't know what happened in those woods. I don't want to know. That kid saw things that nobody should because he aged immensely. They don't say that. They don't even say this is an older picture. They just say, and then they go, my boy, he ended up attacking my wife with the kitchen knife. And she's just sitting there like, yep. She really looks like the idea of like, should I tell the truth? You actually came at me with, she looks weird, but you go off then, and then you see a hand came out of his mouth. He's ripping his clothes off like he's gone Hulkamaniac.
He's hulking out, Jim, slightly. A skinnier version.
I mean, I'm looking at this, I'm like, that's no little boy that was bottles and cans. Look at this guy.
He ain't 10 years old anymore, for sure.
And in my mind at this point, it's just me. And hey, I love my kids, right? They may not love me, but if I see my son, one of my sons, because I have 5, right? And this big hand comes out of his mouth, I'm like, well, honey, I guess we have 4 kids now because I'm not thinking he's surviving this. How does he survive this?
I don't believe it, Jim. Come on. You'd be calling the Exorcist in. Come on, trying
really.
To save him.
I'm calling Blade. So I like the idea that Hulk here, and Banner, he's realized that this might be beyond his scope, but it isn't because he's been fighting that mother. But it's like he wants the softer touch, so he called Blade. Like the idea that Blade, and they even go back and forth. Oh, why did you call me? Well, Stephen Strange. Blade says me and Stephen Strange aren't getting along. It was a weird conversation, but they're going to go in the woods to find their boy.
Jim, I've got a question for you as well. Again, sorry to interrupt, but I want to know this about generally. Why does Bruce Banner look like he does? Why does he look like a really bad Richard Corbin drawn, old man from the mountains? He looks terrible these days. Is that in the main book as well?
I guess it's just trying to ape that deal. He's like the ragged deal, but he does look like a Richard Corbin. In the meantime, there's Blade. And I need Blade to say, where do I go and slice and shoot things? Because that's what I'm about. But they talk about an exorcism. That's not my thing. Hey, we'll go and do it. And it really pushes the play of, Blade's going to end up using whatever new powers he has. But it never really gives you that oomph of, oh my God, here's this new thing, because he walks and they go and find this kid. And I'm like, I don't think this kid's coming back. He looks like he's just sitting in innards. He's all trapped up. He's tied up. He's singing, and you have this entity talking to him, and it goes on too long. Hey, boy, feels soft. With Shane now free. I'm like, really? Because it doesn't look like you're free. But yeah, hey, why free? You smell like us. You do this. You do that. And so at the one point, Blade says, hey, leave the boy alone. I'm telling you, leave the boy alone. That boy is gone. I don't see what you're getting from him. This is an exorcism.
There's only the top half left of him by the looks of things, isn't there? Yeah, my God.
He's got the Joker cuts on the side of his face.
Oh God, yeah.
But just intestines. Ooh. I don't know what's happening here. But he says, I'll give you my power. And that's where he transforms. He goes into
He-Man line, doesn't he? He says, I have the power.
Yeah. So he gets into this wolf form, and then you give us power, leave the boy. Come with me. And then you have pretty much the Thanksgiving Day parade through town of just awful entities just walking through town. It's like, let's go. Let's head and leading them to the slaughter. This is okay. It kind of is like pretty much the Pied Piper of awfulness. Let's go into the cornfields, and then Hulk will smash the hell out of you, and that's what he does. I don't know how this saves people who are kidnapped and things like that, but he ends up busting them up. And that's that. They end up solving the case by doing that. And then you have where Blade reverts back to himself from that wolf form. And then Hulk says, hey, how did you know you'd be able to control yourself? Whatever. And he's like, I didn't, but I always do. That's me. And then they're like, no harm, no foul. Remember, you called me. I got to go where Adona's shadow falls. I'm like, okay, we're getting one of these books.
Believe in the good, Jim. Believe in the good. Dr. Banner, says Blade.
And then they're like, hey, where do you think you're going to go? Well, I did see while I was in that form and these monsters, I did see where Adana is. I'm going to go there. Where's that? In hell. All right, see you in hell. And then they go off.
I think that's where we're all going, Jim.
Yeah, this book is gone there. I'll tell you that. Because this book, it felt like a Blade book, and then it had its own identity. Now you're just trying to ape a more popular book in my mind by even grabbing Hulk in here, and it just feels like a Hulk book. Again, it makes sense with the Adana, what it is, but I want more of a book that I get done and think, oh man, that should be the new Blade movie. Oh my God, that'd be an awesome miniseries. And it's kind of gotten away from that. Maybe some people will disagree, but it just doesn't have that spark. And I did like the Elena Casagrande art, so without that, that's even less of the spark, even though the art's okay, but overall, I'm a little down on this, but what would you give it?
I'm the same. I'm missing Elena Casagrande. It seems like she's only on the covers now. As you were saying, I think the book has lost its voice. It's lost its direction. It's trying to do different things. So I don't like to give it a lower mark, but I'm going to give this 6.5.
Yeah, I'm a 6. It's not that low. I still like it. I like Brian Hill.
It's okay.
His Adonis story at one point really got rushed to then get to this point even, and maybe the editor's like, you got to do this.
I keep telling you, Jim, I feel like we've missed an issue or half an issue or something, haven't we? Completely. It's weird.
Hey, all you weirdos, if you like comic book shows, podcasts, videos, please check the description of this video where you can see links to all of our podcast shows, websites, all of that. And if you want to help us out for everything that we do, you can click on that Patreon link in the upper left-hand corner and check out our Patreon, where you can go right now and get a 7-day free trial to see all the stuff that we do, shows that are Marvel, DC, indie, manga, and even more. So check all that out, and I'll talk to you all later.
Weird science is the revolution.